All right, guys, welcome back. It's time for another installment of Louisiana Legends. Colby Hebert, Cajun Hatter, historian, traiteur, is in the building. And today we're kind of doing a little introduction to...
Right. Bouki.
Bouki et Lapin.
Yes, Bouki et Lapin. It's folklore characters, animal characters within the folklore of our culture. And there's so much we could talk about this. We could have 10 segments on just this because the folklore is so vast and immense. But that being said, we'll kind of do an overview. So Lapin particularly, which means rabbit.
Okay.
Or hare, in French. Lapin particularly is like, he's the showrunner of all of the, because he finds himself constantly in a plethora of different stories among this whole pantheon of characters, as Nathan Rabelais would put it. So the Bouki, which is really interesting, is basically the it's an African word for hyena, and so Wolof word for hyena, and so that kind of right off the bat shows you that a lot of this folklore has its roots that come from Africa, from West Africa. And but like everything else in South Louisiana, we've got this whole mixture and melting pot of contributions from other different cultures. So even with the folklore, of course, that goes all the way to the European side of things, including the French and Spanish, the Native American folklore. And really, the animal, first of all, the animal is such the perfect choice for when telling and creating folklore, folk tales, because they're kind of distanced from like the reality of humans in a way that we can kind of get away with using them as a vehicle to express different things about our culture without having to like call out specific positions within our society or names. But then we kind of humanize them, So for example, putting the word compère before it, compère Lapin or compère Bouki, it means companion, and it's very much our Southern Louisiana version of like Brer rabbit and Brer bear, which means brother, if you've ever heard of that in the the more anglicized parts of the South. And so basically, because the root of this is that these creatures in the story, these human animals, have always been friends from the beginning, and then they kind of go in this different direction. It kind of sets it up that way, so they're companions or they're friends, but then it kind of chaos ensues.
As always.
Right, exactly. So. In this particular case of, for example, with Lapin, he's more considered a trickster, and a trickster plays a very important role in teaching through the folklore. Back, for example, in the African traditions, they would use tricksters as like, don't do this, don't be this way, almost in a sense, because they would show how they were always punished. Whereas really interestingly, here in Louisiana, it became more of a victorious thing, like a model for someone who's able to go against the grain, the weak overcoming the strong, which was the case within, the traumas of like slavery and that kind of stuff. So,
and like you said, I feel like we could just talk.
Yes,
I know Brady,
we barely scratch the surface.
He wants to join in so badly on this conversation.
And we'd love to have him,
And I'm sure we're going to do that in the future, but we have to take a look at the forecast.
Yeah, some big storms rolling